观众朋友们，大家好，欢迎收看《洋厨房》，我是刘烨。世界美味与你共尝。经常做菜的人都知道，每天决定做什么样的菜呢，是一件挺纠结的事情，而且这一点都不比选外卖来的简单。不过呢，如果您想偷个懒的话，不妨可以多多关注我们的卖家秀，杨大厨呢会分享他最新研制的美食，一起来看看吧。
Fragrant and super easy curry chicken. Even the most basic palates will enjoy this one.
Nā te reka. This is delicious.
It's all about the crumb. Pistachio and Parmesan crumb snapper. Need I say more?
This fish, it's to die for. So crunchy.
He pūrini e noho tatana ki te ngākau Māori. Ka hore e ko atu I tēnei.
Done it again, Mum. The best bread and butter pudding recipe.
Hei haka kōpani ake. He hāmana, he hua whenua, kua haka awenga I te hapani.
Te reka hoki.
Kia ora. Today I'm going to be making curry chicken. This is an all-time whānau favourite. It's something that we make at least once a week. It is quick, it is easy, it is a one-pot wonder. And it's a great way to introduce your palate and your whānau to spices. So the best thing about this particular dish as well is that everything goes into one pan. It's a one-pot hit wonder, and you can't go wrong with dishes like that. So first of all, I'm going to start with chopping up our onions. Using a food processor is another good way to avoid tears when cutting onions, especially when you're like me and cater for huge crowds. Right, onions are chopped. Now I'm going to grate my garlic and my ginger. I always like to leave the skin on my ginger because that's where all the flavour is. In this dish, I've added potato into it, and the reason and the sole purpose for this is purely because my husband always tells me that he's always hungry. So I threw in some threw those potatoes in just to make sure that it fills him up. It adds that extra carb, as he likes to call it. So now that I've finished cutting the riwai, we're going to move on to the next step, which is cooking up our spices and getting those flavours going. Alrighty, so I've turned on our electric frying pan. Now this can be done on the stove in a wok. It can literally be done on anything and everywhere as long as you've got a lid, because the lid is a very important part of this process. We're going to add some oil. We're going to make sure that it gets nice and hot. When you put those onions in, you want to hear them sizzle. We've got to get all those spices going. This kitchen is just going to smell amazing in about 2 minutes. That's a sizzle. Some of my memories of my mum making curries when I was younger was she always used a wooden spoon. And the thing with curry and wooden spoons, it always stains it. But that's not really the memory. My memory is that wooden spoon was the one that used to give me smacks. That's how I remember the curry wooden spoon. Everybody has a curry wooden spoon in their home. Okay. All right, so we're going to go with some spices. In this particular dish, go crazy. Add whatever you have in your cupboard. These are just a few spices that I use, but they're not a must. Tuatahi ake. Hakauru at the garam masala. Turmeric. Also into that, I'm going to add some smoked paprika. I've got some mustard seeds, just to add a bit of pop. Now, this baby is what adds that beautiful hotness. Chili flakes. To that, I'm going to add some sugar. And the reason why I'm adding sugar, it's that good old saying, you know, sweet, salty, all of that sort of stuff. This just helps to bring out more flavours. Give that a bit of a stir. Now it is important to burn off your spices, and what that means is it's basically cooking them through, because what this does is that it allows them to release their flavours and it just brings out everything. It's honestly, if that camera was a sniff cam, you would be smelling something great right now. All right, gonna chuck in my riwai and just half of them. And the reason why I'm doing that is that I really want the flavour to go through. Okay, and I'm going to go in with the chicken. Now, most importantly for your chicken, whānau, you have to make sure that your chicken is cooked completely through. Chicken thighs are the best cut of meat for any curry. It has that fat factor, adds more flavour and more juice, and we just want to brown it off. We don't want to cook it right through right now, because when I start boiling everything together, that's when it will complete the process. We just want to brown it off. You can see that the chicken has really absorbed all those spices already, and that's just going to be magical. So while that meat's browning off, I'm going to add some more leeway with the remaining potatoes. Going to add some bay leaves. So I'm going to add some chicken stock powder. And what this does is that it just adds more punch, more kick to the chicken that's already in there. All right, this is looking good. I've got some chopped cherry tomatoes, some tomato paste. Next, add 2 dessert spoons of chicken stock with water, salt and pepper. All right, now the last ingredients go in, canned tomatoes. So now that everything's done, it's really important during this process that the hei is cooked all the way through. And it's going to take anywhere roughly between 15 to 20 minutes. So now the lid goes on and we just sit and wait. So it's been about 15 minutes. I'm going to check through the chicken and make sure it's cooked. Smelling good. Now, one way that I check my chicken is the double spoon method. 2 spoons, not only good for parties, but good to check chicken. I just split my chicken open just a little bit. You can tell that it's ready, as it's cooked all the way through and the juices are running clear. Ane e te iwi, the easiest curry chicken to feed your whānau. Serve it with rice to make it go a little further and to balance out the flavours. Oh, nā te reka. This is delicious. The rice is lovely and fluffy. Those viwai have cooked through perfectly. And that chicken is beautiful and moist. E whaiake nei. It's my favourite fish, snapper, with a recipe for the most delicious crumb. When I was on My Kitchen Rules, my friend Tash and I were asked to cook a dish in 15 minutes, something that represented both of us. And of course, I was going to choose something from the moana. So today, we're going to recreate my pistachio and Parmesan crumb snapper. And to add to that, we've got a pumpkin and pea puree. Using these simple ingredients, I'll show you some simple tricks to visually take your dish to the next level. So we're going to get into making this crumb. I'm going to prep all my chopped ingredients that need to go in first. Firstly, roughly chop some coriander. I'm going to get into grating some Parmesan. Going to bring over our panko crumbs. Now, I absolutely love panko crumbs. You can get them anywhere. And if you don't have panko crumbs, just use breadcrumbs. Does the same. I just prefer panko. So into our pestle and mortar, what we're going to add first and foremost is our pistachios. These are salted pistachio nuts. Add some panko crumbs. And to this, we're going to add some Parmesan. Some salt and pepper. It's a little bit more panko crumbs on the top, otherwise I'll just be bashing in cheese. I'm just slowly going to add some coriander. So we're just going to move all of this to the side and start prepping our fish. So I'm going to add 1 egg, because we're going to dip our fish into that before it goes into the crumb. Always use a fork just to get it going. Fabulous. And into into this bowl, we're going to add our crumb. And now for the hero of the dish, the snapper. We want to cut the fish into smaller pieces so we're able to stack them when plating. 3 steps here. We're going to dip it in flour, then dip it in the egg, then dip into the crumb. If you ever do this dish on a marae, this is a really, really good job to give to those teenagers. Give it to them so they can get all paru. So now that that's done, we're going to cover, chill, place in the fridge, wash our hands, start on our veggies with our pumpkin and pea puree. Now, as we know, pumpkin is the last job that anybody wants at a marae. It's the one job we all avoid. There's no easy way about it, whānau. Just get in there, find the flattest surface, and chop the pumpkin into bite-sized pieces or small enough so they can cook quickly. So now that that's done, we're going to head over to the stove. We're going to put them in boiling water to get our puree started. Hakarawa ngā hua whenua ki te kōhua. Now, like I've always said, it is a sin to cook seafood in oil, so of course I'm going in with some butter. And in true header fashion, lots of it. All right, look at that butter. I'm going to let that dollop of butter slowly melt down while I'm going to add my fish. The fish should only take around 1 to 2 minutes each side. Once it's white halfway, then you flip it because it's cooked that far. So I'm going to get ready to flip some of this fish. Yeah, it is beautiful. That is perfect. So I'm going to turn this fish off. Just going to put this on the dish. See all that beautiful burnt butter? That's what you dip your bread into. Once the veggies are cooked, strain the water, add a small amount of cream, and then puree. For what is a pretty simple process, having 2 different purees will add a stunning visual dimension, and not to mention texture to your dish. And now for my favourite part, we're going to plate it up and then eat it up. We're going to start with our puree. Make sure you don't overcook your peas as you want the colour to remain as vibrant as possible when you plate. And now for the hero of the dish, our beautifully cooked fish. And this dish will not be complete without a couple of pistachios to add on the side. And there you have it, my pistachio and Parmesan crumb snapper with my pumpkin and pea puree. You do not know how excited I am to eat this fish. My mouth is totally salivating, so I'm going to get in there. And this fish, it's to die for. So crunchy. If you were to ask me what my favourite all-time pudding is, it would be bread and butter pudding. I grew up on this. Mum made this dessert for me. It is simple, it is basic, but damn it is good. It is my favourite, bread and butter pudding. A tried and true recipe passed down through the generations. 2 words, simply delicious. So the best thing about bread and butter pudding is using any prawa that you have in the cupboard. The way that Mum does it, it's really simple, really basic. With having 5 children, she didn't have time to muck around. She liked to do her bread in triangles. Every now and again, she always glazed one with boysenberry jam. All right, we've got some leftover ciabatta bread that's been in the cupboard. There are different varieties of bread and butter pudding. Some people add sultanas, raisin, fruit, chocolate, but I like it the simple way. Croissants. This is going to add more buttery flavour throughout this dish. Now, there's going to be a few layers of this, and as I do my layers, I like to build it up with all the different flavours. I'm going to add some cinnamon. More cinnamon. Some more sugar. A little bit of boysenberry jam. So a bread and butter pudding wouldn't be a bread and butter pudding without some butter. Don't be shy with your butter. There are different ways of doing bread and butter pudding. Some people like to butter their bread with the butter first and then the jam, but Mum's always done it on the top. She has this belief that when the butter melts, it will start to seep through the rest of the ingredients. And for me, good old saying, Mum knows best. The secret to a beautiful fluffy bread and butter pudding is by adding boiling water, not too much so that it's soaked, but just enough that it's going to allow the bread to rise and become nice and fluffy. And our final stages, we're going to whisk together our eggs. For a pudding this size, we're going to add about 4 eggs and anywhere between 2 to 3 glasses of milk. Add sugar. Combine all those ingredients together. And now we're going to add this to our bread and butter mixture. Make sure it gets into all those little crevices. The oven is preheated on 180 degrees. We're going to bake this for about 15 to 20 minutes and then it'll be all good to go. It's fresh out of the oven. Look at it. It looks gorgeous. I can see that it's nice and crunchy on the top. There's puddles of beautiful melted butter. Lovely, crunchy, spongy, exactly what a bread and butter pudding should be. And what do you need to top it off? Some beautiful, delicious pouring cream. And I did think of plating me up a small bowl, but it looks too good. Let's get into this. The crunch on the top, I can see it's lovely, fluffy, soft, but that custard has gone through absolutely perfectly. Cinnamon, the sweetness of that jam. Done it again, Mum. The best bread and butter pudding recipe.
E whaiaki nei, teriyaki salmon and tempura veggies. Yum!
So when my whānau and I go out for kai, we love eating Asian food. We go to our favourite Japanese restaurant and the first thing on the menu that you see is tempura veggies. Crunchy, they're crispy, and it reminds me of my favourite kai of all time, battered oysters. So we're going to be making that today, as well as teriyaki salmon. So we're going to start by chopping our veggies. There's no particular method to it, it's just as thin as possible. The reason for this is so that when you tempura, they cook through and they cook fast. If you don't eat meat or protein, this is a perfect vegan or vegetarian dish. It's a dish that will suit anybody. Move into our riwai. Chopped carrots. It's almost like a veggie fruit salad. It's all about those colours blending in together.
And orange kumara.
So the best thing about making tempura veggies is that there's no waste. You can do a couple of things with it. The first thing you can do is you can save your veggies to make a stock. But from where I'm from, we feed it to the pigs. It's good pig scraps.
Next up, the batter.
So into this batter, we're going to add plain flour. If I had to give you a recipe, it would be 1 cup of flour to 1 cup of rice flour. But as I've always said, I never measure. I'm just going to go off look. Now to this mixture, a bit of salt.
Ice is the key ingredient when making tempura batter. Cold water slows the development of gluten. Mix through, but you don't want to work it too much. Again, the lower the gluten, the lighter the batter.
So while we've been prepping the batter and the veggies, I've had my oil on the stove heating up. Let's get into it. So we're going to start by dusting our vegetables, dipping them into our batter. So our reason for flouring all of our vegetables is to make sure that the batter sticks. We want it to stick really nice and well. Should take about a minute on each side. You should be ready to go after that. Now you're always going to get these little crunchies and they're always good just to add at the end. These are looking perfect, so we're just going to remove them from the oil, put them on our drying tray, just to get that extra crunch. Aren't they just gorgeous?
Inaia nei, me tahuri atu ki te hāmana, ki tētahi hōpane wera, maringitia te hinu.
We want it to be nice and hot because we want to hear a sizzle. Anytime you cook fish, you want to hear the sizzle when it goes down. Oh, listen to that. And a little bit of a tip, if you just hold down the ends, what it does is that it allows the salmon to keep its shape because the skin tends to curl up and your fish can also curl up. Not for too long. We really want to get it nice and crispy because once we turn it, that's it. So same thing kind of like our white fish as well, you're looking to see it change colour. Okay, and now we're going to flip this over.
E pai ana mena e mawhiro tonu ana o Wainganui. It's safe to eat raw.
So we're going to get into our teriyaki sauce. All we're going to do is we're going to reduce our soya sauce. Add some brown sugar. We're going to add the spring onions and let that reduce so it's all nice and ready. So I've got this on a bit of a medium heat because if your heat's too high, everything will burn really, really fast, and sugar and soya sauce tend to do that quite well. So if you keep it just on a nice slow heat, you're going to sit here, you're going to watch it simmer, and it will juice fast enough. Well, that looks ready, it looks good. Let's go and plate up. Finally, we're ready to dish up this amazing kai. I feel like I've absolutely transported myself to my favourite restaurant, so I'm getting hungry, the puku is rumbling. Let's get plating. And add some ginger. Black sesame. Now look at all these amazing colours. Who wouldn't want to get their teeth into that? We're just going to finish that off with a little bit of spring onion. And there you have it, tempura veggies and teriyaki salmon. Who needs a restaurant when you can make this beautiful kai at home? Te reko hoki.
今天呢，为大家带来的美食，不知道您还满意吗？感谢您收看本期的《洋厨房》，下周同一时间我们不见不散。